Hello and welcome to Threefold Herbal Healing. I'm herbalist Liosede. I help people who struggle with chronic conditions grow their health from the roots up. Today I'm speaking about estrogen, progesterone, and reproductive health. You will be surprised to hear that estrogen and progesterone do not affect only your reproductive health, they affect your entire body well-being. Nobody told me that, and I'm here to tell you that. In all my years since my monarch, when I was a young teenager, all my years of fertility and into menopause, nobody actually told me what estrogen and progesterone do in my body and how to know when what's happening is normal and what's when the alarm bells are ringing. So I'm here to give you that information so you can observe your body and listen to the alarm bell when they ring. So let's start by talking generally about what are hormones. Hormones are chemical messengers like snail mails. They convey information to cells that influence your mood, your behavior, your emotion, your brain function like cognition, focus, memory. They influence the immune system and the reproductive and metabolic functions. All the cells in the body are like swimming in a broth of hormones that constantly change to adapt to factors such as light, darkness, appetite, satiation, your stress level, your blood sugar, and where you are in your moon cycle. So if somebody ever told you that you're hormonal, good for you. Because if your hormones don't fluctuate, that means that there is rigidity and they are not adapting, they are not flexible. Being hormonal, good for you. For reproductive hormones to effectively convey their message, you want receptivity from the cells. The cells need to communicate with those hormones. And there are three hormones that are the primary hormones of the women reproductive system. You probably heard about them. Estrogen is the dominant hormone between the first day of your period until about 2 weeks later, until day 14. On about day 14, when estrogen reach kind of a peak, LH is released in the pituitary gland and initiate ovulation. Ovulation take about 48 hours. Post-ovulation, progesterone is released, and progesterone have its effect for about 10 to 16 days. It's very individual for each woman. Most women are aware of those three hormones and how they affect reproductive health. However, what most women don't know is that reproductive hormones affect far more than just reproductive health. They have a far-reaching effect on every system in the woman's body, which means that if your reproductive hormones are out of whack, so is your entire body. But also, if your body is not well, you will have imbalances in the reproductive system, including PMS, infertility, PCOS, and fibroid. So those are actually like a wellness card that your body sends you. So let's look at each one of those hormones separately. What is estrogen and how does it work in your body? Estrogen is a building hormone, meaning it promotes cell proliferation and production of a new blood vessel to supply the egg and the potential embryo with blood rich with nutrient and oxygen. However, estrogen has many other functions that are not directly related to reproduction. So first of all, it has a cooling effect on your body. It cools the body between half to a full degree than the usual temperature. So the first 2 weeks of your cycle, when estrogen is dominant, your temperature will be somewhat lower than on the second half of your cycle. Estrogen has a profound effect on two branches of the immune system, in the innate immune system and in the adaptive immune system. It both promote anti-inflammatory immune messengers and suppress inflammatory immune cytokines. Overall, the effect is anti-inflammatory. Women after menopause lose this protective effect of um, of estrogen in preventing inflammation. It also have the same effect on the cardiovascular system. It promotes vasodilation, which means that your arteries relax and your blood pressure drop. It's maintain arteries integrity, elasticity. It's preventing all the age-related stiffening of arteries. It reduces inflammation in blood vessels, and it supports a healthy fat metabolism, so cholesterol, triglyceride, HDL, and LDL. Women with insufficient estrogen or after menopause lose the protective effect of estrogen on the cardiovascular system, which, if combined with the reduction in anti-inflammatory protections, mean they have a dramatic increase in the risk of developing a heart condition. In the brain, estrogen has profound effect due to its anti-inflammatory action, but also because it promotes neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA. That keeps you more calm and happy, and it's also provide acetylcholine and neurotransmitter that is involved in memory consolidation. So estrogen affect your mood and your memory. When you lose the protection of estrogen, if you don't have enough estrogen in your system or if you're postmenopausal, you increase the risk of mood disorders, depression and anxiety, of brain fog and memory loss, as well as degenerative disease like Alzheimer. Now, because estrogens support GABA and serotonin, estrogen promote a good night's sleep. It influences melatonin and the circadian cycle, and it enhances REM sleep. So overall, the effect is a good night long sleep with a good quality of sleep. Very important factor. And any women postmenopause that struggle with getting the 7 to 8 hours of sleep will tell you how she feels because there is less estrogen in the system. Estrogen supports the resilience and strength of bone by reducing the cell breakdown of old bones. So your bones, your old bones, degenerate. They kind of their breakdown is slower when you are on estrogen, when you have estrogen in your system. Another thing that a lot of women in menopause can attest, that when you don't have estrogen in your system or your level of estrogen are low, you lose bone density. And it also supports the synovial fluids. The synovial fluid is what oil your joints. It's synovial fluid decreases friction in joint, absorb shock, and increase smooth mobility. So estrogen also keep that juicy. All your joints are much more juicy. And it keeps all your body basically juicy. Wow, estrogen is doing so much more than I thought it was doing in my body. Impressive. But it also explains why fluctuation in estrogen affects far more than just the reproductive system. Make you think about all those times during your menstrual cycle when you felt moody, emotional, had hard time sleeping, or struggled with memory and focus. Those fluctuations are real, they are not myth. So maybe respecting our body means slowing down at those times and being graceful with ourselves. Those fluctuations actually affect every facet of our life. So let's just look at what might be insufficient estrogen during your fertility years. When do you need to pay attention and seek advice? So if you have an irregular or absent periods, if you have a very, very light flow of blood during your menstrual flow, shortened menstrual cycle, infertility issue, vaginal dryness, hot flashes, joint pain, bone density loss, sleep disruption, brain fog and memory issue, mood changes, depression or anxiety, decreased libido. All of those are connected to insufficient estrogen. So let's talk about what progesterone does in our body. Yes, progesterone is a reproductive hormone. However, it has many effects that are not necessarily reproductive. Progesterone balances estrogen. While estrogen is a building hormone that lines your uterus with a thick layer of tissue to support conception, progesterone comes and promotes some shedding and smoothing of the lining to make it more smooth and nourishing. It actually turns some of the lining into glands that start to secrete sugar and other stuff into this space. In women with insufficient progesterone, you will see fibroids and heavy periods. So let's see what progesterone does in the body. It is not just reproductive hormone. It increases your body basal temperature. So the last 2 weeks of your cycle, the weeks just before your period, your basal temperature will be higher. But it's also explained why women in premenopause experience hot flashes because progesterone fluctuate and estrogen fluctuate, and the dramatic shifts in estrogen and progesterone increase and decrease temperature very fast. Progesterone increases the production of T regular cells. Those Treg cells are anti-inflammatory. So as long as your body releases sufficient progesterone during the 10 to 16 days following ovulation, the second half of your cycle, your risk of inflammation is reduced. Progesterone also acts as natural calcium channel blocker. It relaxes blood vessels and reduces blood pressure. Women post-menopause lose the protective function of progesterone and are at higher risk of cardiovascular condition. It's also influenced lipid metabolism, healthier cholesterol profile, again, LDL, HDL. In the brain, progesterone converts to allopregnanolone, a calming neurotransmitter that acts like GABA. For women, it means that if your progesterone shift very fast, if it drop very fast, or if you are very sensitive to those progesterone shifts, you will have anxiety and irritability when progesterone is reduced. Because it acts like GABA, it promotes deep sleep. Again, poor sleep with cardiovascular risk don't go well. If you have poor sleep and you are exposed to increase in cardiovascular system, it's really increase your risk of heart attack and metabolic conditions. It's also stimulate osteoblast activity, which is bone building cells. So while estrogen inhibited the breakdown of bones, progesterone actually build new bones. So together, when you're in menopause and you lose both estrogen and progesterone, your bones are really suffering. You need to be proactive in protecting your bones. So what might be the alarm bells that make you think, oh, I might have insufficient progesterone. You're spotting between the periods. Your periods are extremely heavy. You struggle with PMS symptoms. You have sleep disturbances and increased inflammation. You don't have the rise in temperature on this second half of the month. So if every month, every day, you take your body temperature and you see that after ovulation on the second half of the month, the week 3 and 4 of your women's cycle, your temperature doesn't go up, you have insufficient progesterone. It is important to note that the reproductive hormones don't function in a vacuum. They're influenced by stress, especially chronic high cortisol influence, estrogen and progesterone, metabolic conditions like insulin resistance and thyroid hormones are crucial for healthy reproductive hormones. Messing up with one family of hormones lead to a chain reaction in the entire endocrine system, which means that any care plan for the reproductive system includes diet, detox, metabolic health, sleep, and stress management. I invite you to share this information with your friends and family, especially your daughter if you have them. No women should be in the dark when it comes to understanding how reproductive hormones can change her life and how to notice when something really goes wrong. Maybe respecting our bodies means slowing down and being graceful with ourselves because those hormonal up and down that we women experience every month between puberty and menopause are not just a myth. They do affect almost every facet of our life. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope it was helpful. I hope you benefited. I will be very grateful if you drop a comment and let me know what is one thing that you learned and you are going to take from that conversation. Thank you and have a good week. Bye.